What is up, fam? Today we're going to learn how to make a classic slingshot from stuff you probably already have around the house. Stay tuned. I'm going to start with this nice fork-shaped branch that I found in my backyard. Now, you normally want to go with a hardwood, but the one I'm making doesn't have too strong of a draw, so it probably doesn't matter. After taking some time to scrape off the bark, I position the stick in my hand how I would hold the slingshot and assess where I need to make my cuts. Then I just trim the whole thing until it's a nice, comfortable size. Once I'm happy with that, I bust out some sandpaper and round off all of the sharp corners. You're going to want these to be nice and smooth so they don't bite into our bands later on. Speaking of which, next we're going to cut our grooves that will attach those bands to. To do this, I started by marking roughly a half of an inch down from the top of each one of the fork tines. Then, using a file, I cut in a shallow indentation following my lines around each tine. This will give the elastics that hold our bands in place something to hold on to. Now for our bands, we're going to be using some regular office elastics, number 32 to be precise. We'll need to place them in 3 groups of 3 per side, leaving us with 6 groups of 3 or 18 rubber bands total. Just make sure you stretch each band out to check for any weak spots or breakage. Take 2 groups of 3 elastics and pass one through the other. Now just pull the bottoms of the outermost group through the center of the inner 3 elastic. This should cleanly combine the 2 groups together. But there's a problem. Due to the friction on the surface of the rubber, the knot doesn't actually get very tight. To solve this problem, you're going to have to add a little lubrication. After which, that knot now pulls nice and tight. Then add your next group of 3 the same way, again wetting your knot a little bit just to make sure everything stays nice and snug. And with that, you're done one whole side. Then just start again on the opposite side until you've connected all 3 groups together. For our slingshot pouch, I cut this piece of veg tan leather 3 inches long by 3/4 of an inch wide, and then I just evenly tapered the ends off. With it folded in half, I marked some center points, which I then punched out with my rotary hole punch. Now you don't have to do this, but the holes make it a little bit easier to find the center of the pouch and also make the pouch a little bit easier to bend. You will want to evenly punch holes on either side though, so we have a space to put our bands through. Now, to connect our bands, simply pass one of the group ends of 3s through one of those holes, and open them all up so they form a loop. Then just fish the rest of the band through that group, pulling it tight to form a lark's head knot. Again, you're going to need to moisten the rubber here so that everything slides in tight and clean. Then, just follow suit on the opposite side. And with that, our pouch and strap assembly is all set. Now we just need to connect it to our fork. To do this, I start by cutting some 3-inch pieces of paracord. Then I melt the ends of them just to make sure nothing frays. Putting one of these pieces of paracord into position on the front of my slingshot, I begin wrapping a cut elastic around our indentation to hold it into place. Next, I slide one of the ends of my bands around the paracord, and then bend that cord over to form a loop. Now I continue to wrap that elastic around to hold it into place. Finally, to lock it into position, I put my finger in the way to form a space for the elastic end to go through, and then simply remove my finger. Thanks to the surface friction of the rubber, everything is held strongly into place. I then follow all the same steps on the other side with the opposite end of my rubber band chain. And that paracord forms a nice soft loop that won't cut into our elastics as we shoot. With that all in place, we have a super easy working slingshot. At least, I think we do. Let's take it outside and check. Now, I didn't have any ball bearings to shoot, but I did have some of this gravel just around my house. Drawing back, and this thing shoots amazing! For something I made out of a stick from the backyard and just some elastics I had laying around the house, this thing shoots really accurately. Now you can of course play with how many rubber bands you add or the strength of said rubber bands, but just as is, this thing is going to provide hours of fun target practice. Of course, be safe, shoot responsibly, and as always, keep leveling up, you.